We're back again for another episode of
Wrapped Under Rastic.
Zoinks.
So am I the dog and you're Shaggy in this situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to get the munchies real quick.
Okay.
All right. I got something I want to put on the airwaves right now.
Okay, put it on the airwaves. Oh, God, you got Diet Dew all over my microphone. Wait, so did you just suck the goodie? No, okay. So
Well, I didn't
is it
even shake
official?
this up.
Was that like the champagne bottle celebrating our sponsorships with Diet Dew?
No.
Like exclusively Diet Dew, not normal Dew. Like there are different departments in the Dew Dew factories.
Oh yeah, I need the supervisor of Diet Dew division.
Like there's like civil wars between the two.
Yeah. It's not celebrating anything because they haven't gotten back to me.
It's celebrating Friday. John has met the Messiah, and her name is Kofifi. No, just coffee.
Kofifi. Not hot coffee. That's a different thing. That's a different Grand Theft Auto thing.
Iced coffee?
No. Okay, so here's a little story. When I was a kid, my dad, who was born in the late 40s, and he was in Vietnam. And he was when I was growing up, he loved Westerns, like spaghetti Westerns, Western TV shows, that kind of stuff. So I was a little kid. I watched all those. And I always remember one thing that stuck with me from when I was a little kid was it was so cool to see like the cowboys out in the range and they'd be on this little campfire, and the next morning they'd put that pot, black coffee, it was like tar, and they'd drink that every morning. I just thought that was the coolest thing. And then I got to be older and I tried coffee. I'm like, this is terrible. 2 weeks ago, I decided I want to be a cowboy.
Okay.
And so I took the path of least resistance, and I started to
Starbucks.
drink coffee.
Oh, okay.
So
in terms of becoming a cowboy.
yeah, this makes me a cowboy now.
Okay, right.
So I started to drink a cup of strong black coffee every morning, and I feel so good. Like, it makes my morning happy. I feel so productive. I'm up earlier.
Okay.
It curbs my appetite. I just think it makes me like more excited to get to the painting desk in the morning. It makes me more pumped to like do businessy stuff. I think we should all be cowboys.
Truly, coffee is a god if it makes you do all those things.
It does.
There's going to be like a million people that echo your same sentiments like in the comment section. What I'm surprised mostly by, that has caffeine in it, right?
Yeah.
So you're a soda. Do you drink soda during the week or no?
Yeah. I mean, I've cut back since I've had the coffee. Like now I maybe have a can every other day, but I used to drink like 2-3 cans a day.
So
this doesn't do the same thing to me.
That's
I think
super interesting.
Yeah, and there's probably, maybe because I'm drinking strong coffee, and it's not that strong. It's the Death Wish dark roast or whatever. It's nothing like.
Sounds pretty fucking strong.
Yeah, but it's
Death Wish.
I know. They have a pretty awesome logo. That's why I bought theirs.
Yeah. That's like half the reason I buy the beer I buy.
Right. Yeah. It's how cool is the logo and how badass is the name.
Yeah, right.
I bought that.
Yeah.
It's probably more caffeine than this, but this still is not like weak sauce.
Yeah, I don't actually know how soda compares to coffee. Obviously coffee's kind of like soda's kind of like standard. Like I don't know if there's like one brand that's like, we have the most caffeine. Like they don't advertise that.
Surge.
Yeah.
Jolt.
Yeah, or any energy drink, I suppose.
Yeah.
But like coffee, you can kind of like tailor your experience with, right? You can get 6 shots of espresso over ice and drink that. Or you can just get like a black coffee or like an Americano or whatever. And they all have different levels.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of hard to know when you brew your own how much caffeine it has, unless it says in the tin.
That's a good point.
I don't know.
I think one thing too is like this stuff doesn't affect me too much. If I drink a Monster, I'll feel that, but it's a different high than coffee. Okay. Coffee is like this nice on and off ramp. Monster makes me just like, I'm gonna have a heart attack. Not like that extreme, but it's like it gets me jittery. And where I don't want to sit still, and coffee just makes me happy and alert. So I don't know if there's something to do with the beans.
Yeah.
Versus the chemicals.
The bean makeup.
This has nothing to do with the hobby. I mean, it kind of does. It makes me happy. I also, since I've started this, I got 2 other side tangents here. I've lost 10 pounds in 2 weeks.
Started drinking coffee?
Yeah. Because I drink black coffee for breakfast, and I drink a ton of water, and I I don't eat till supper. And then because
you just okay, yeah.
I mean, black coffee's not the reason I lost weight.
Because you're skipping a whole meal.
Well, I've made it a active decision in my life that I want to lose weight.
Yeah.
And so this was something that really helped that. But then by the time I get to supper, because I haven't eaten anything and my stomach shrinks, if I'm eating good foods, I get fuller faster, and then I don't overeat.
That's good.
And I cut sugar out.
Nice.
So
yeah, maybe it's the lack of sugar, the lack of one entire
yeah,
meal. Or it's coffee.
You don't have sugar and carbs, and you're only eating once a day. I mean,
it's the coffee doing the work.
Yeah, it's the coffee doing the work. And then we're gonna have tendies for lunch. Hey. This is gonna be great. It's gonna be great because then I'm not gonna eat supper. I'm just switching it.
You're not eating supper?
Last weekend we had a belated Father's Day, and I made big steaks on the grill for the whole fam. So we had that for lunch, and then I just didn't eat supper because I had a big. So I'm gonna go with that.
Okay.
Also, last weekend, for the first time in my life, I went to a Starbucks and ordered a coffee off their drive-through menu.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm about 20 years late to the party on this.
Did you wait like 20 minutes in line?
But no. I was like, holy fuck, I don't know how to order anything here. What the hell is a grande? I just want a black coffee. It's like I got to go through this fucking Venn diagram to order a black coffee medium. That was it. And I'm like, I can't do this. And so I had to like talk to the 17-year-old through the thing like I'm an old man.
Yeah, you're like,
how do I order? I want a black coffee and not too big.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, she can figure it out. Okay.
That's all right. All right. That's it.
I've been trying to get past this for like the last 5 minutes, but you're just like, and then I'm like, I fucking hate coffee. Okay.
Go. You got one, don't you? You got one.
Yeah, for once. Okay, yeah. Let me fucking talk, John. Jesus Christ.
Just talk.
I have a history with ultrasonic cleaners that have led me to the conclusion that they're fucking useless and they don't never do anything. Mostly in regards to stripping miniatures.
Sure.
So a long time ago, probably like 4 months ago, I bought like an Omega ultrasonic cleaner. It costs like $60. It's like a giant metal box. It has the capability to heat the liquid up and vibrate it.
Oh, okay.
Which is like what a normal ultrasonic cleaner does. Some of them like allow you to adjust the frequency with which the things are vibrating at. Not this one, but this one like has a variable timer. You can set it to whatever, like anywhere from 1 to 999 minutes. You can set it, and you can also set the temp, and it maintains the temp. So it's kind of like it's very fancy.
You can use it as a sous vide machine.
I mean, kind of. Yeah, you want to vibrate my meat?
Hey,
I don't know what the fuck that meant. So I bought some models from my local game store to use as test models for an upcoming army I'm going to paint. Mm-hmm. And the thing, for some reason, was in front of me, the ultrasonic cleaner. So I was like, I don't care. Why not? I'll try it. Oh, I know why. It was because I was cleaning airbrushes with it. And so I put the models in there with isopropyl alcohol and let it rip for like 20, 30 minutes at like 50 degrees Celsius. So fairly warm. Mm-hmm. At one point I was at 60 and I was like, this is kind of dangerously warm. Like I can't keep my hand in there. It's too hot. Ooh. So I was kind of concerned I was going to get a little bendy boys.
You don't want to melt your Poke Boys.
Yeah. And 20, 30 minutes, it was exactly how I want a stripping agent to work. I don't know if it was the ISO that was doing the heavy lifting, mm-hmm. or it was the ultrasonic cleaner. From experience, putting models in isopropyl alcohol, I gotta believe it was the vibrator, the ultrasonic cleaner. Just because, like, putting models in 30 minutes in ISO that have been painted, I don't know, however long ago. These are mystery models, right?
Sure.
And then hitting it with a toothbrush, like that shit never comes off as well as it did.
Mm-mm.
It came fucking right off, and I was just like, "Holy cow, this is magical." So earlier, I then used them to clean my airbrush, which I'll say out loud, I've heard different things about whether or not it's okay to use an ultrasonic cleaner from the companies that make airbrushes. So from Ken Schofelt, the owner of Badger, I've seen in a seminar 6 years ago at this point where he said they're not good for airbrushes. I have a contact at Iwata that I talk to all the time. I asked that person, is it okay to use it on your brushes? And they're like, yeah, it's fine. So I have different conflicting answers. Okay. Some people say it's bad. Some people don't care. So I thought I'd throw that out there. But it worked great for the airbrush. It worked amazingly. I feel like an airbrushing god now.
Did you take everything apart?
Yes.
And put it in there separately?
I took it apart. I even did deeper cleaning. I took like some pipe cleaners and cleaned out like the needle sealing chuck or nut, and all kinds of stuff.
Did you scrub that after it went through the ultrasonic cleaner?
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, like I assume I just haven't cleaned my airbrush in a very long time and it was affecting the performance, but holy cow, it's like so much better.
That's cool. No,
yeah. So yeah, ultrasonic cleaners. Maybe it was the one that does the heat. Maybe it was just keeping it in there for 30 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe it was just a rip in the space-time continuum and it only worked in the exact situation that you used it, and the next time you use it, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
That feels entirely likely to me.
Yeah. It worked for the airbrushes, and then it worked for the models.
Okay.
So I'll leave the model in the description. It's expensive, and it worked for me. Maybe it's like that one just vibrates them at like a way higher frequency or a way lower frequency.
Because whenever I've seen them or seen them in videos, because I've never seen it in person, it always looks like it's not doing anything.
Yeah,
I'm like,
this does look like.
I want it to be like a bubbling swamp.
Yeah,
it
doesn't do that. But like when you put a thing in there and turn it on, the thing looks like it's smoking. Like it's just like whatever. Like the paint is just wisping off.
Yeah,
and
that's what I want to see.
Yeah, and then it makes this horrendous racket. It's very noisy.
Oh, I want that visual recognition. Something terrible's happening. All right. Well, that's a good story. Thank you for sharing that in our Preamble Ramble.
You're very welcome, John.
I got two more things to Preamble Ramble about. In the after party, we're going to talk about something new we tried, and this is kind of tangent to that. You were pointing. Oh, you were skimming. I thought you were pointing to have me stop.
No.
Okay. I've never worked so hard at mini painting as I have this week. And it has to do with my next video that's coming out, that I restrict myself to painting 2 hours a night and to paint a whole army. And I like subconsciously put so much pressure on myself to get so much done in 2 hours that by the end of those 2 hours, like I'm like physically exhausted because I am rushing as fast as I can while still doing like brush control and doing all the details and whatever. In the combination of trying to have speed and trying to have precision and, still making mistakes, but like I've even like putting 100 plus hours into a competition meet. Like I feel like I've never worked this hard to paint a mini before.
Really? Wow.
And I don't know. I think it's because I'm compiling all the things that we don't typically do at a given time all in one sitting. And
can you give me an example of what you're compiling?
So,
like in your brain?
It's not consciously in my brain that I'm doing it. It's like it's the constant notion of being under a time constraint. Like I sit down, it's 8:30, and I'm always thinking about the time and what I'm hoping to accomplish in that time. So I'm always like pushing myself. So there's always a stress of go, 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 go.
That's oppressive.
And then the overwhelming feeling of when I'm 2 models in of doing this freaking gold trim everywhere that I'm like, I look at the whole macro and be like, there's no way I'm doing this in 2 hours. There's no way. I have to go faster. Oh, am I missing a spot? I got to mix more of the stupid paint. I got to like everything is so quick and happening at the same time. And I put this pressure on myself. So by the time I'm done, like my shoulders are like rocks because I'm just like squished up and tense the whole time. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's for science. Is this possible? Because my theory with this video is I'm going to take every excuse that people have for not getting an army done, and I'm going to check every one of those damn excuse boxes, and I'm going to do it all in one fell swoop. And if I can pull this off, you have no fucking excuse.
So is the title of the video going to be Your Excuses Are Bullshit?
Well, I get a lot of ragers if I do that.
It's got to be something aggro.
Yeah, so, I don't know.
Or like, uplifting. You could be like, you could take a different path and be like,
no one's gonna watch it if it's uplifting.
Yeah, you could be like, you can do this, like, but that kind of vibe, like not that exactly.
If I can paint this army in a week, you have zero excuses.
Yeah,
something like that.
So it's either okay. I suppose that's kind of in the middle. I was thinking either totally uplifting or you're a bitch, like one. Like one of the two.
That's just the title. 3 words. You're a bitch.
Hello, limited monetization. That's so funny. Okay.
It's worth it.
So you're exerting yourself. You're getting sweaty.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
And here's the question for you. You have to be honest. Are you at the... maybe I can't ask this question yet because the process isn't done yet.
It's not done yet.
But the question is it a net positive or a net negative thing? And maybe it's hard to tell like now, and maybe it'd be easier to tell in a couple months. But yeah, how do you feel about that?
I think it's a net negative to not having completed this, and even know if I'm going to finish it. But it's a net positive to go through it under the most possible time and limitation constraints. I haven't even used an airbrush yet.
What?
I haven't used an airbrush, and I don't know if I'm going to.
From what I saw in the pictures, the models looked like they had color mostly on them already. So why, there would be no point where I would see you use an airbrush. Unless you had like a large detail that was like sequestered off from the model and you could kind of like spray it.
The only thing that I might do an airbrush for is, one, if I was going to do the enamel or oil wash, to do that through an airbrush to speed it way up. Okay. But I don't think it's that much more time consuming, and I got to deal with cleaning an airbrush. But doing things like OSL at the end, like I like to do like a bright opaque white on like lenses and stuff like that, and then spray the red. Like that I'll probably just do at the end anyway and be like, you don't have to do this step. I want my army to look a little bit cooler. This is what I'm going to do. But
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think to go through it with what I don't know if worst case scenario, but like most restrictive scenario, and then to say this was all possible with all of these self-imposed restrictions. If this is possible, there is a more lax, more obtainable version of this that I feel anybody can do, because there's no step that I've done this far, and there's no steps that I have planned out that I feel that any miniature painter can't accomplish. Nothing is really is skill-based or anything. It's just, do you have the motivation and the desire to do it? You can do it. So I think it will be worth it.
Okay.
And then the last thing, what was my last thing?
Who knew bits would make me so excited?
Okay, so
here's the thing.
Bits.
I saw the word hard above because we said, why is mini painting made me work so hard? And I was like, why? Who never knew that bits made me so hard? I was like, what the fuck? This is a particularly sexual episode. This is definitely NC-17 right now.
Yeah, it's double B. It's boner bits. These are different than boner boy bits. They're different.
Yeah, they are.
They're different. So local guy on the Facebook, we have a local Warhammer Age of Sigmar Facebook group. And he's like, does anyone want to buy all my extra bits? And he sent a picture, and they're just like 50 sprues, and stuff's not cut off of them. He's a player. He's not really a painter, and he's not a converter. He's not like a hobbyist. He's just a hardcore player.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, I'll give you $50 for everything. And he's like, cool. It's fine. So I go and meet him in a old abandoned Shopko parking lot, and I get the bits. I give him the cash. He gives me the stuff. And I didn't even know what was in there, but there are sprues of 8 or 9 different Age of Sigmar armies in there. And it was just like, he cut out the dude's torso, the dude's legs, the dude's head, 2 of the dude's arms.
Yeah.
And everything else was on there.
Yeah.
And I got so excited because a lot of this stuff, like, you've seen the kits, you see the pictures on GW's site, you've seen the armies, blah, blah, blah. But you don't necessarily like look at things through the lens of just them on their own.
This is free to use whatever I want.
And I don't have this preconceived notion of, I bought this box of incubi. I know what they are. I've clipped them out. I've built them. I've looked at all the bits to decide which head or what arm, whatever. Like, they have this box that you've put them in your head of what they are. Mm-hmm. But I'm just pulling up a sprue and looking at it, and I'm like, that head is super cool. I don't even know what kit it's for. I don't necessarily know what army it's for, but I just like, oh, whoa. And you start thinking the possibilities. So I don't know if there's a way to manufacture that with your own stuff, but I was so hyped to look at all this stuff through this lens of possibility instead of deciding this is a Caradron Overlord dude with the balloon backpack. Like, I didn't look at it that way, and it was so cool. And so I'm like, I'm super pumped once I'm done with this stinking video to sit down and clip all those out and organize them. And I think I have a video idea that's come to me based on this. So
yeah.
Bits are freaking cool. That's the end of the story.
That's
the end
cool.
of the story.
I sometimes like it when you just look at a very simple thing and it almost like inspires an entire idea.
Yes.
So yeah, with those bits, I imagine that was probably happening a couple times.
Exactly what it was. Because again, it was like I didn't think, because if it's like a different head for this guy, when you look at it, not even knowing what you're doing, your brain is picturing then the whole guy. It's putting around limitations of the possibilities because you connect it to an existing thing. When you don't have that, it's super cool.
Yeah.
So, what you do is give yourself a concussion.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Then go look at your bits box while you're still woozy and kind of nauseous.
Woozy.
And then your brain won't connect what it's for. And you'll have these ideas and jot them down. You know, you probably have to write left-handed because your brain's not working right now.
Yeah. You're
Jot
like
down
bleeding internally.
Yeah, general ideas of just what is your natural response.
Also,
And-
don't do that. Don't give yourself a concussion. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess not. God, why do you gotta be?
So I put together the Razor Wing Jet Fighter for the Dark Eldar, and it comes with a bunch of extra missiles, and the Venoms come with extra guns too. And I was like, dude, I want to make like a weapons battery piece of terrain for like that has all these fucking missiles and guns and shit. Yeah, thought that'd be super cool because there's so many extra like fucking guns.
Yeah,
like big guns.
Oh, one of the bits. So first of all, this dude has a Gargants army, which are the big giants.
Yeah,
and I got all the bits from 3 Mega Gargants, which are like $200 a box.
Damn.
And 6 of the baby Gargants.
Jesus.
And he didn't use, and in both of those kits, like there's a buttload of extra stuff. So I've got like a dozen different various farm animals.
Awesome.
I've got 3 running Johans. Do you know who Johan is?
Yeah.
I got 3 of them now. I don't know what the fuck to do.
It's fucking Johan, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Johan, you fucking American.
Johann Sebastian Bach.
Joe
Okay.
Sonja.
Joe Son, whatever. Johan
Vallejo.
Vallejo.
Oh yeah, I fucked it up.
Johan's a much funnier name.
It is funnier.
Okay. But in one of the Mega Gargant kits, there's this piece that like supposed to go on their hip, which is like a bunch of shields and various weapons and armor bits of all these different factions in Age of Sigmar, and it like goes on the hip. But it's actually perfectly sculpted with this round shape to it that it could go on as like a backpack or a cloak looking thing that just a regular size Age of Sigmar dude is carrying. How sweet is that?
Dude.
To make a dude that's like, he's the man at arms, or whatever. Like he's got all this stuff.
Yeah, dude. Like give him like 17 sacks. There, it's a comedy piece.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a sack of sacks.
Yeah, sack man.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So do you think it was worth $50?
Oh, 100%. Like straight up, just if I were to like piece it out, I could sell just the Mega Gargant bits, which are like 6 of the 50 sprues on eBay for $100. Like
No way.
price. Yes.
No one buys that shit for $100.
When you bit stuff out for specific things, some stuff is really expensive. Plus it's like the minimum you pay for just about any tiny little thing is like $2-3, and the more coveted stuff is $10 for a bit.
So this is assuming you sell everything.
Yeah, and he kind of made that argument too of like, well, I looked and you could sell what other stuff over, way more than this, and I'm like, okay,
Do it. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm giving you $50 American, and you don't have to carry all this crap around anymore.
You don't got to do anything.
Yep.
Yeah. 100%.
I think it was a win-win.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm happy there.
Gave him the old John Nina sales pitch.
Right. Yeah. And then I got him in on the pyramid scheme. I got one more real quick thing that's really, really funny. So yesterday, I'll be the judge of that. Yesterday, one of my patrons, he's like, oh man, I just listened to the latest podcast. And the latest podcast, the last one.
Kind of forget what we talk about.
We were talking about Ben Cantor and about the fact that he listens to podcasts at 2 times speed. And
Yeah.
I talked really fast to fuck with him.
Yeah.
And he's like, as soon as you went through that spot, I stopped, I rewound it, and then I listened to it at 2 times speed. And he's like, I laughed for like 5 minutes of how ridiculous it sounded.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's something funny about
Chipmunk
funny
voices?
words.
Oh, funny sounds and funny words?
sounds.
Yeah, dude.
And-
Poops and peas, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Fucking
There was a lot of
hilarious.
pips and peas in the last episode.
Was there?
Yeah, there was.
I don't know. So the thing is like we do the podcast, not the Friday before it comes out, but the Friday before that Friday that it comes out. I don't know how to describe that in terms of like a single word.
And neither of us edit it, so we don't.
Exactly. So I mean, obviously, pretty much what we say ends up in the episode. Nothing really gets removed. Unless John goes on like a really bad racial spree, like Jesus Christ. No, I'm just kidding. He just never does that. But like, so yeah, everything we say goes in, and then like someone in my Discord will be like, they'll answer a question that I like threw out into the universe. I'm like, what the fuck are you saying? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then like, and they tell me, it's like, oh yeah, I said that like a week and 3 days ago.
Right.
So weird.
But I listen to it typically like when I'm doing work at my work desk. And my wife will come down. She's like, "Are you listening to yourself?" In a very accusatory tone of voice, I'll have you know. And I'm like, I try to explain to her. I'm like, this happened like a week and a half ago. And if you were to ask me an hour after we record the podcast what we talk about, I'll probably not remember most of it. Because it's not like it's all planned out and like we have this in our head and it's gone through our brain a number of times. And so you remember it.
We got a thing. Let's give ourselves some credit here. We got a little thing we maintain.
Yeah. We've got a skeleton.
Yeah.
But what the final Frankenstein monster looks like, I got no idea. Yeah. So I tell her, like, when I listen to it, and this is 100% truthful, I don't know what's coming next because I don't remember any of it.
But you remember everything as soon as it's said.
Yes, once it starts, like the conversation goes. But then there's always something that is thrown in there that I still think is funny. So yeah, maybe I'm vain.
Like when you get to this point, you're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, this is the part where we talk about how they can't remember it."
Yeah.
But then when they hear it for the first time, then they remember it. You're gonna remember me saying all this. Hi, John.
Hey, Scott. Thanks for watching.
I don't like that.
We're speaking into the future. Isn't that kind of weird to think
All
about?
right. Fuck this Preamble Ramble. What is this?
Don't look at the time.
It's like, okay, the recorder says 30 minutes. It's probably more like 25 or 22. Okay. The topic discussion for today.
I thought we were going to do what we painted.
Is some... Oh, fuck. Oh, my God.
You've forgotten.
Here's the thing.
And then
by this point, we should be past.
Right.
I think the news is after the topic. Yeah, it is. All right. Anyways, what we painted. You want to go first? Or should I go first?
You're going first.
Okay. I painted like 13 or 14 different Dark Eldar test models for a yellow paint scheme. I probably also, since I last was on the podcast, finished the Witch Hunter from Cursed City. I don't know if I talked about that. Maybe I did.
You talked about it last episode, but you hadn't finished it yet.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so he's done, and I did a bunch of test models for my impending army paint job that I'd like to do.
Okay. Since we last met, on that episode of the stream, aren't episodes, but on the last stream, when you were finishing that dude, I started one of the Soulblight Gravelord's Underworlds dudes, the feral dude with the wings.
Yeah.
I painted him on stream, not all the way to completion, but I was like having fun trying a little bit harder on him. And so that was fun. I don't know when I'll finish him. I almost brought him today to do on stream, but I was like, I'm not pumped to do that. So I didn't. And then also I've been painting my 40K army, my Night Lord's army, for the last started Monday. Today is Friday, 2 hours a night. So that's not done yet, but it's one of those weird things that I found this is the second time I've done an army that the 80% of the work, the 80% of the time you spent, when you do it the way that I do it with a lot of weathering and pulling it all together at the end, the first 80% doesn't look that good. And then in the last 20%, it actually looks good. At least that's my hope. I'm not there yet.
Right. I think that's probably the case for most people. Maybe that like line is moved further to the left, depending on how you paint. Like if you're the kind of person who paints on like a black base coat and you paint like the arm, like that looks good at like multiple stages, you know?
Yeah. That's what we call that the Richard Gray whip version of painting.
Really, any British person whip, right?
Yeah. What's funny in a Richard Gray recent video, he addresses that.
Does he?
And he's like, he says it that he throws stuff out for whips, and then people say like, "What are you talking about? That looks amazing." He's like, "Well, it's because you don't see the back, or your eyes are drawn to the thing that I'm painting, and you don't see all the things I haven't painted."
Oh yeah, no, I have no quarrel with people saying, "Here's a really good fucking arm. The rest of the model isn't done. This is a whip." Like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I'm not ripping on him, and I don't think that
you're not whipping on him.
I'm not whipping on him. Hey, Ricky. Can we call him Ricky Gray now?
No.
Oh no, I think
We take a lot of liberties here in this podcast.
Right.
That's one we cannot take.
Yes.
Can't call him Ricky.
What I didn't do this time was I didn't do a test model, and you are ahead of me.
No, I'm not.
I mean, not literally ahead of me in the paint job process, but the work that you did will catch you up to the level that I got to much quicker because I have a process, but I don't have any confidence in it. And so I'm questioning too much because I haven't done it before.
Yeah.
So you have whatever you've decided based on that yellow scheme video that you're going to go for. You're just be 100% committed to it and just do it.
Yeah.
And you'll make up ground so much faster.
Absolutely.
This is a plus and minus of not doing a test model is that I have no idea what my models are going to look like when I'm done, which is scary.
It's a little spooky.
It's scary. So I may not like the Army at all when it's done. And I'm like, this is a coin flip chance right now. I'm a little bit nervous. But if it does look cool, I'm going to feel way better than if I did a test model and it turned out cool. Because I'm going to be like,
It's kind of like you cheated and got away with it kind of
Right.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the procrastinator wins out in the end kind of thing.
That's life.
Yeah. I mean, also, you're definitely not the procrastinator in this situation.
You work well under pressure, though.
Is that true?
I'm going to say it because if you put it out into the universe, it becomes true.
Yeah, you're speaking it. Yeah, you're speaking it into my subconscious. You're making it true. What's that called? That's not called astral projection. That's called, I forget what that's called. It doesn't matter.
It's self-realization.
Yeah, actualization.
Sure.
One of those words. Yeah.
I'm sure we're wrong, but if we say it with enough confidence, people will still tell us in the comments.
Hello. Before moving on to today's podcast topic, let's hear a brief message from today's sponsor, and that is Broken Anvil Miniatures. Brought to you by a lonely Scott because John has abandoned me, but his absence is made a little bit less so by the presence of these very sexy miniatures. Broken Anvil Miniatures does it all. They sell wonderfully characterful miniatures for both tabletop applications and display painting. I can say from firsthand experience, these casts are absolutely crispy as well, so you're in for a very satisfying paint job. They've also been selling STL files of their designs on their Patreon, Broken Anvil Monthly. For $9 a month, you get access to over 50 individual models, including Owlfolk, Ratkin, Howlers, tons of terrain, and an Algon, whatever that terrifying thing is. All of this and more from their line of pre-supported 3D printable miniatures. If you want to test the quality of their designs, they have a free dwarf model available for printing on their site. Lastly, if Kickstarter is more your speed, you can still late pledge to their campaign, Dungeon Delvers, which has more great designs like Mousefolk, Frogkin, and something I never thought I needed, Shroom People. You can find all the details about Broken Anvil Miniatures in the description below. Thank you to Broken Anvil for supporting the podcast. Now, on to the main topic. So the topic for today, I think, has the potential to be really interesting.
Okay.
So here's the situation. John and I are working on a collaboration at the moment.
I'm going to do this.
I don't know if it's going to end up being a collaboration, and here's why. So the collaboration is, the idea for the video is to, how long does it take someone to paint an army that they're actually happy with? Mm-hmm. So we've done the thing where we paint an army in 2 days. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, okay, we've done that. What if I want to paint an army to make it look really nice? How long does that take? So today's episode is about the things that we are doing to expedite the painting process and still get results that we like. And why I think it's interesting is because this podcast will come out after the videos air.
Yeah.
And so right now we can talk about what we plan to do. And then the viewers, when they see the videos, can see what ends up in the process, like what was worth it and what wasn't worth it, perhaps. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we should just spill all our beans right now.
Yeah. You're also, like, you are time traveling right now.
Yes.
Because the videos will already have been out, but we're doing this from a perspective of not having finished them yet.
Yeah. So on the table, for you audio listeners, I have a Razorwing Jet Fighter, 5 Incubi, an Archon, a Venom, and then behind me I have even more stuff. So I have not begun the painting process yet, other than for the testing, lots of testing on the yellow stuff. So I have a lot of ideas about how I can go fast, but I have no idea if they're good ideas. Because as we've said before in the past, army painting is really like a skill.
Sure.
Like when you're painting an army, you're looking at the army army as a whole, almost as if it is a single display model. That's kind of how I think it should be thought about. I don't know, but that's how I think it should be. You know what I mean?
It should. Yeah, you put this different weight on yourself, or it's very easy to put this weight on yourself based on when we look at armies, what we then expect of ourselves, that they should live as a unified thing, because they should all feel like they belong together. They should all feel like that it is a cohesive experience to see them all together.
Yeah.
And you put then this weight on yourself, whether you're thinking about it or not, that I have to make all these decisions, or I have to put all these restrictions on myself. And I'm not saying that's good or that's bad, but you have to do that when you're undertaking a project like this, which is not something you have to do when you're painting a single figure or even a unit of figures.
Yeah.
So there is this different layer to it that most of us, unless you're Vinci V, don't do often enough in our lives to really ever feel comfortable with it. And I think that's my first thing that when we talked about having this as the subject of the video that I came to, is that you need to understand that a majority or a good percentage of this whole process for you will be uncomfortable because you've not done it 100 times.
Oh, yeah.
Or even 5 times. And there are those of you that have done it that many times. But I would even say, if this is your 6th army, it's still a whole unique experience. And there's still things you're going to do
6th
different.
army? I feel like you'd be starting to get into a rhythm by then.
But you never want to do 2 the same way.
Well, the skeleton, the process is...
Yeah,
I assume it'd be refined.
you'll start to feel a little bit of comfortability there. But
Yeah.
I think my main point with this is that you're going to feel uncomfortable, and that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean you need to stop and second guess everything, because that's what I find myself doing with this, is with my current army, is that I'm second guessing everything I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I don't have the luxury of time, because I have the restraint of a video release date. I don't have the luxury to sit and second guess and try out and redo and whatever.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's a good thing.
Sometimes it is a good thing. I think sometimes it can be a bad thing as well.
There will be times where you're being like, I redo it over again, or I really listened to my gut here and done it this way instead of this way. You'll say that. But you'll say that out of 2 of the things when you had 20 decisions to make that you hemmed and hawed over. And at the end of the day, one of those 20, if you do that every time and just really overanalyze everything, you're going to get caught, and you're just going to put it down, and you're not going to put it back up.
Yeah, it depends on the person, right?
Sure. I think all of this is with a grain of salt, but I think the average person is like, if you just put too much stress and pressure on yourself to make every decision feel like it has to be the 100% perfect decision. I need to know it's the perfect decition before I move forward.
A fallacy. Yeah.
Because I've got 60 to 100 models to do it on, so I've got to make sure it's right. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
Right? You can sometimes you can just say, dude, all the brown staves and sticks and shit, who cares?
Yeah, just get a base coat.
Grab a brown.
Yeah, you don't need to highlight that shit.
You don't need 15 browns for your goddamn Dark Eldar. You need 1 brown. Just make a decision and move on. So, that's my first thing with this is...
Hold on, can I give a pre thing?
Mm-hmm,
Here's what I'll say. When I painted armies as a young lad, and that's all I did, and I finished a few of them. I no longer have them, very sadly. I had a fully painted Middenheim army and a fully painted Vampire Count army, and I sold them both like a fucking idiot. Also, my Orc army is fully painted, but it's sitting right there in a box. Anyways, the way I'm thinking about army painting right now is way different than when I used to think about it as a little kid.
Really?
Yeah, way different. So now, like right now, like we're really min-maxing this process, really like getting everything we can. And part of it is because it's a time restraint that we put on ourselves because of video production. It makes it more interesting for the viewer. But I think a much more normal way to paint an army is to not think about this shit. Maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm wrong. And just to paint a unit at a time, like a normal ass person. You know?
You're a regular ass person.
Yeah, it's like you don't need to paint your whole Space Marine army at the same time. Yeah. If that's gonna burn you out, fuck it. Just paint 5 fucking dudes, and then go on to the next 5 dudes, and then throw a character in there, and then paint a vehicle. Yeah. I'd be interested to hear. Obviously, people who are more probably about like the gaming aspect probably look to min-max the painting process. Yeah, because it's almost probably more. It's almost like list building. Thinking about painting is almost better than painting for people like that. You know what I
mean? Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe there's an interesting ratio there, but like, yeah, the way we talk about painting right now isn't necessarily how you need to paint an army.
Sure.
Anyways, let's go.
Okay. I think that leads well into one of the topics I wanted to discuss today was to decision make with yourself before you begin. And I think you need to have a couple of things figured out before you begin. And not that if you don't make these decisions, you're going to fail or it's going to look terrible, but I think you're going to make your life easier in the long run. And the first thing is, what do I want out of this? What I mean by that is, do I want out of this to just have a project that I'm going to do at my own pace and enjoy? Okay. Do I want the best looking painted army that I can possibly do? Okay. Do I want this done by the end of the month? Questions like that. What is my goal here? Because I think if you don't actualize that, or you don't put it out in the universe and just make a decision on it, I think you become indecisive, and you say, oh, gosh, I'm 5 Primaris in, and it's taken me 3 weeks, and I did really want this done for the tournament next month. But if you can put some context around what you're trying to achieve, I think then you can always tie yourself back to that, and it will help you in minor decisions. It'll help you with your whole process. If you're saying, I want the best painted Space Marine army on the block or whatever, then I'm going to say, look, I'm not restricting myself to number of steps. I'm not restricting myself for time, but in order for me to have the best painted army, the whole army has to be finished. So I need to do something for myself to keep me moving to actually get there this year. And so what does that mean for me? That means I shouldn't take more than 2 weeks for every unit or something like that. I think the more you can define what you want out of it, what are your goals, what are you looking to achieve, the more you can define that early on, the better and more confident you'll feel as you move through the project.
You know what I appreciate about you?
I appreciate about you.
You really do think way more than I do about the long, not the long term, but like the full roadmap. Like, you're a great high level guy.
Well, hold on there, Squirrely Dan.
I feel like I get way down in the details like really fast, and I don't think about the end destination. Oh, I do. Like, I know I need to be done by a certain point, obviously, yeah. But it's like I don't connect that end date with how fast I'm moving, or at least not good enough. Like, I don't think, okay, I painted that unit in 30 hours. Talking about my fucking Blood Knights. Like, there's no chance I'm going to paint anything else like valuable or like that looks as good as that, in a reasonable amount of time. Yeah, I need to do more of that, I think.
So an army is a whole box of Jenga blocks, right? Okay, this is all Jenga blocks.
Okay. I didn't realize it, but now we're getting into a job metaphor. Okay.
And the game of Jenga doesn't work unless you have the full blocks of Jenga blocks.
That's totally false.
Yes, whatever. If it functions, it functions. But it is a whole object. When they're all put together, it is a Jenga tower.
I got a riddle for you. What's the thing that breaks when you remove one part?
Car.
That's not true. You remove one windshield wiper.
To remove one tire.
It's a little more challenging.
Remove one steering wheel.
Anyways, go on with your Jenga analogy.
It is both a single object and a sum of its parts.
There you go.
And while at any one point you are only taking out one Jenga block, it still is part of the full Jenga tower. It returns itself to the Jenga tower.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so you need to occasionally take a step back and look at that Jenga tower to find which individual piece is best suited to still keep the tower intact. And you only do that by taking a step back and reminding yourself of the whole project.
Okay, so the analogy, the way this analogy is working is that
I like that you're my interpreter for the analogies.
No, I'm trying to make sure I understand.
Okay.
So the Jenga thing is like, these are all the steps that I could do.
Yes.
I'm going to remove as much as I can until I'm left with the same vague shape of a Jenga tower, but I have a lot of inefficiencies removed.
Right.
But the problem being that you put the Jenga blocks back on top.
Yeah, because it's still got to be part of the tower. Once you finish that unit of incubi, it is still part of the tower. It is still part of the army.
Okay.
But you just can't be so hyper-focused on any single piece at any given time to realize that it ceases to be a whole experience, a whole tower, if you pick the wrong one.
All right.
So
no more further questions, Judge.
I rest my case.
All right.
So yeah, you just need to take a step back.
Oh.
That's your foot. I thought it was a dog. It's just your socked foot.
John, I play a little footsie right there. Okay. I'm going to tell you about an approach that I'm going to take to this army, and you can tell me if I'm an idiot, and all the audience members can too that have painted more armies than me. I've always seen people do bases apart from the models, and any time you keep something separate, the main benefit is that you can airbrush both parts because there's no masking that needs to be done, and the divide is super clean. So my thought was to keep the models off of their bases. The logistical issue then becomes you need to find a thing to put the models on so they can be held.
Yeah, it's good.
So here's my idea. I'm going to do the bases separately with an airbrush so that it can be faster, hopefully. I'm going to do the airbrushing stages with the models, and I'm going to double side tape them to a stir stick equivalent.
Yeah.
And then when the airbrush stages are done, I'm going to super glue them to their bases because it has to happen eventually, to the complete bases. And then I will do the rest of the paintbrush painting with them on their bases and just hold the base itself. Yeah, I don't have enough of the fucking handle shit things that I don't know. I'm being so sweary right now.
Sweary.
I don't have enough of the painting handles to use for like an entire army at one point, which is the approach that I'm taking to paint this army. So I'll just hold it by the base. But that is an idea that I have. So airbrush things separately, glue them together, finish the paintbrushing process, because I feel like long term painting a model that's double sided taped to a stick, that model's it's gonna bend and fail. The tape will fail at some point.
Yeah, no. I think that's actually a really good approach. Kind of bummed I hadn't thought of that first.
Bitch! No. We're not competing. We're not competing.
Right. The only downside of that I see, and it is a great time saver and allows you to do more things with the base.
Is it a time saver?
I think it is.
Okay.
As long as you're wanting to put some time into the base to make it unique. If you want to have a blend of like dark blue up to orange or whatever on the base.
I do, yeah.
Then I think it's great. That was totally what I would do. I am not putting a lot of effort into my pieces, so that's not what I'm going to do. But I think it's a really good idea. The only thing that makes me nervous when I do that is that when I'm doing all the stuff for the base and then I'm putting the model on, I'm always hesitant, especially if it's just kind of like two little feet and one of them is up on his balls of his feet.
Yeah.
Is adhesion.
Yeah, you're right.
But I think that's a minor thing if you don't go too crazy with
the
whatever you do
textures
with
and stuff.
Yeah.
You
know, or kind of loose stuff if you just like put loose sand on there. But yeah, even then, I think you have a good glob of super glue on there. It'll go. Some will hit the sand and some will actually go down into the base. I think it's fine.
Yeah. Also, the model's pretty lightweight, so
yeah.
If it was a pewter model, it'd be a problem for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I think it's a solid idea. I think where I was worried where you're going with that was that you were going to paint them all off the base. And I'm like, that's going to be a freaking problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
I paint all mine like people use handles and stuff, which I think if I wasn't in a rush, I'd use a painting handle for doing my models, but I just hold them by the base as I'm painting for this stuff.
Doing it old school, dude.
Yeah, it's like I've never felt like, oh, I can't complete this step because I don't have the model and painting handle.
Yeah. It's like a 5% comfort boost.
Right. And the quality level that I'm looking for any particular step doesn't require that. So
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. That's a nice little hack.
Yeah.
Nice
Okay.
little hack.
Would you like to give a hack? I have another one.
Gosh, I wasn't thinking about a hack.
Do you want me to do
I'll do a real quick one that's,
Yeah.
that's pretty obvious, but I think it's helped me a lot, is that I want to get one step 100% to completion before I move on to another step. And this is just a speed thing. Even if you're not painting your army for speed, it feels good to say, okay, now I'm all done with the reds. And to say, I know that I've done all the reds, and I look at all my guys and I can tell at a glance. Now, this is not if you're doing it one unit at a time, but even if you do it 5 or 10 models at a time, if you do all the reds and you kind of see them all at the same level of completion and you see them standing next to each other, you can visualize things, what they may need or what you may need to tweak your approach because you see a unit of them together. Again, this is multiple Jenga blocks. This is a one Jenga block. If I do one dude all the way to the completion, then I move on to the next dude. By the time I get a unit of all 5 all done and they're standing next to each other, I may have a realization where it's like, shoot, I should have done this different, or they don't quite look as popping in a group as they do if I just stare at one. So I liked, I'm not saying it's just batch painting, but batch painting helps this process of seeing everybody as the full Jenga tower in any given step.
Yeah. That's really good too, because then you can mentally check off a step in your head and it really clears up your brain.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, I'm done with red. I do not need to do that anymore. Put the red paints away. Like, let's go.
Yep.
If you keep telling yourself that, like, oh, the red's 90% done, and then like you're kind of like thinking about like, should I do some more work? Should I do a few more brush strokes? So yeah, that's good to check things off officially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. There's something that is we don't really think about it, but it is often the momentum that keeps us moving is feelings of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And that's an easy feeling of accomplishment. It's like, yes, check, done with reds.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier, I think sometimes we do a bad job of explaining our thoughts because something comes more naturally to us. Can you explain why painting an entire model on a stir stick, double-sided tape to it is a bad thing? Like, why would that be bad?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, the reasons you're putting it on the stir stick or the painting stick in the first place. So I give an example, or to visualize what this actually is. So we think we've talked about it before. When you go to the paint store or the hardware store and you get the stir sticks for the big paint you use to paint your house, you just go and get those for free. And you put tape or something on there and you put a whole line of minis on there and you can prime them all together. It makes it a lot quicker. There's two problems with painting that way. The first one is that you've got all the dudes on there. So you're getting a full 360 access to any one of those models is pretty unlikely.
Yeah, it's challenging.
And you're holding this whole stick, which makes it more awkward and more torque on your wrist over time if you're trying to continually turn that thing. So your actual application process of paint, you've just increased the difficulty level by 3 alone. It's tough. And then a lot of times they are stuck down depending on the quality of your tape or whatever you have them adhered to. But if you're pushing that with your paintbrush, it can actually become wobbly, or they have a bit of resistance. That foam tape sometimes is a little bit of a give. So you're trying to get into a spot and the model's fighting you because it's kind of leaning back as you're touching it.
Yeah.
You've made your job more difficult.
Right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Another point of efficiency about the stir sticks, which is something I read on a blog, I don't know how true it is when you're painting an entire army at one point or in one time, you lose a lot of time picking up and putting down models. So the ability to pick up 10 at a time, paint them, and put them down all at the same time, maybe that also saves you some time as well. Like that is really min-maxy. I don't know how valuable that is, but that's one thing I read.
I mean, we talked about doing a test model. I do think in an ideal situation, you do that.
Yeah, having no decisions to be made.
Yes, you know exactly what the things are going to look like. And that doesn't mean that like every model in your army is going to be looking the exact same because you painted them all based on this one test model. But it gives you a good general aesthetic that your army will all be tied together. Like I'm not going to paint all their helmets red, but I'm going to have that red as my accent color. And I know then when I get to my Rhino, and they use that same red for maybe some hazard stripes on the side or something like that. So the colors, they all feel like they're part of the same army. And I do have those micro decisions of when I get to the Rhino where I'm going to put the red. And that's just fine. But I've taken away a lot of the decision making because I've, one, done a test model so I have confidence in the final look of something. I don't second guess myself. And two, because I have that, I have my steps written down. I think this is a pretty important thing, is that you write down what your steps are. You know, it's base coat, highlight, then gold trim, then all the red, then all the bone, then all the silver, whatever. It just so you are taking those decision points out. And now that may be said, it's like, look, I just painted all this gold. My next step was all the silver. I'm kind of done with metals right now. I'm mentally like, don't want to deal with that. And I want to do something that's quicker. So now I'm going to do all the red because there's only a little bit of reds. And then I'll come back to the silver. So don't feel like you're, being strangled by what you wrote down. Mm-hmm. You allow yourself room for adaptation, but that adaptation is still checking a box off your list.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's impossible to go into an army knowing how to paint everything.
Yeah.
But the higher that percentage can be, I feel like the more you can turn your brain off and just kind of go with the flow. Yep. Okay. I think parts of your paint plan should be efficient to the point where while you are progressing one part, you're also progressing another part, if possible. And here's an example. My Dark Eldar army is khaki cloth and yellow armor. And this is going to be the death of me, but I want to paint portions of my army differently. So I want a portion of my army to be metallic yellow, which is not hard to do. It's just silver and yellow ink. I want a portion of my army to be yellow armor. I want a portion of the elites in my army to have white armor. And so it's like, wow, okay, that is almost like 3 different paint plans, but it isn't. And here's why it isn't. My undercoating process for my yellow armor completes my khaki. It's done. So if I just hit the yellow ink on the armor and avoid the khaki, which I do a pretty good job of, like it's enough to the point where if I put a contrast paint on top of the khaki, it kind of hides the yellow a little bit and it doesn't really matter, right?
Sure.
And then the undercoating process plus an additional intermediate step also completes the white for the elite portions of my army. Mm-hmm. So it isn't like I am painting 3 totally different ways of painting. The metallic one is totally different. But I'm able to kill several birds with one stone with the airbrush, just cleverly organizing the paint plan. And hopefully that will save some time.
Yeah. I like that. Man, you've thought this through. Because otherwise that could be a pain in the ass.
All big time.
All the way through all the yellow. And now I have to start from square one.
On the white. Yeah, fuck that.
That's yikes on bikes right there.
Big yikes on bikes.
Okay. Something that I think is kind of a pivotal intro question you need to answer, which this applies to, I think, any miniature you paint, but it's equally, if not more so important when we're talking about the full Jenga tower. And that is, what's the most important part? What's the most important thing of this army?
Okay.
Or any individual unit in the army, any individual model of the army. And that is where I need to put most of my ball sack. Okay. So we'll go back
it's like a display model, the whole thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a display model that's all taking up this big 6x4 table that I'm standing at 6 feet away of looking at, instead of one little figure that I'm standing 6 inches away of looking at. Mm-hmm. And so to me, what makes or breaks an army being cool is that 6 feet away, does it grab my attention? So the first question that I ask myself when I am going to paint an army is, what's going to pop? What's going to make me look a second time at 6 feet away? What is that thing? Identify what that is or what you would like that to be, and use that as your main North Star to go by.
Okay.
So all the little details of it's going to have this funky little helmet, or, it's going to do this interesting thing on the silver of the weapons, or blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's not going to make or break your army. It's going to make or break your army for most of the time is your main color or your main two colors in conjunction working together, and how that you can push that to the style or aesthetic you're looking for in the greatest way possible. Again, with the Space Marines, it's how do I get the most out of that primary color of the Space Marine to really pop and make it look different than everybody else's Ultramarine army at 6 feet. And maybe there's a correct answer in this that says, I want it to be a cool version of the box art. And that's still good because you still have made a decision and you still said, I just want them to really feel like Ultramarines on the box. That's still answering that question.
Yeah.
And then it's my decision making of how I approach this is based off of that decision, because that decision is the most important decision you're going to make in the entire process, whether it takes you 10 hours to paint this army or 10 years.
10 hours.
At the end of the day, it's still a Jenga tower, and that Jenga tower needs to look awesome from 6 feet. And that main color or two color combination is what's going to make that pop. And so you going through the yellow decision on what's the most interesting shadow color or undercolor or build up to make this yellow look like what in my head I want it to look like. That's what's going to make the army cool.
Yeah. Or like hue, because like there are so many different hues of yellow. And
yeah,
like,
right.
You add white, you add black to that hue. Like it just changes it so much.
Changes it drastically. And yellow is a prime example of there's a giant spectrum
of
that color.
Yeah.
And then when I say this affects all your other decisions, it does so in a really important way. So for you want to accentuate that yellow. And even if like, it's not the banana elves, right? There's not just gonna be like pure yellow.
No.
But how do you really go about making further decisions that really boost you at that 6 foot? And one way that I like to do that is building contrast in light and dark. So you have a nice, vibrant, interesting color that's not often seen on the table. And you can accentuate that by having those bright parts next to dark parts where it's really, really dark brown or even black or a really, really dark purple or something. So it almost like outlines with the different parts that aren't that yellow. And then it makes that yellow pop even more because there's contrast that's easily seeable at 6 feet away.
Yeah.
This is an area that I'm struggling with my army, and I don't know how it's going to turn out.
Having light and dark parts next to each other intentionally?
Well, just my primary color of Night Lords is very dark.
It's very dark.
It's very dark. And then how I wanted to build up the color, and I did build it up to Fenrisian gray, which is a really bright grayish blue. But it's naturally a desaturated dark blue color. And so I'm kind of freaking out. Once I got all of that base coats with all the highlights done, I was kind of freaking out because I'm like, this is not going to stand out. Luckily, I kind of stumbled into this by, taking Vincy V's advice on the coolest gold to use, which is that, which we're going to talk about in the after party of this Green Stuff World pigment powder metallics. And that is such a vibrant gold, and that it like outlines all the dark with all this really dramatic accoutrement bullshit that all the chaos people have. And I'm hoping that still turns through in the final version of the army. But sometimes
After
your army
washing.
is dark.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're on one side of the spectrum is you have a really bright, interesting color.
Yeah.
What do you do in a darker based army to still make me go, what? And that's, sometimes that's the key is like really dark things can look more dramatic when you have these accent parts that are like, Jesus, that's a bright, vibrant green that's like fluorescent that's just shining from their eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
And you create this atmosphere that still draws you because it's so bright.
Yeah, because like the volume of darkness to the lightness is so drastic that it makes the small light thing, even if it isn't that bright, like way brighter because it's relative to what's going on.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think John kind of touched on this before, but it's worth bringing it up. And I find it's true mostly for metallics. When you're painting metallics, like seriously, like a base coat and a wash is enough. Like you don't need to do anything more. Because metallics, especially the Vallejo metal colors, are so shiny and pretty that after you get a little bit of like separation of detail in there from like a pin wash, from whatever you want to use, it's done in my books. It's done. And like John mentioned earlier, for like, you know, if you're painting the stabs, like when I paint the lances for my Blood Knights, I paste coat them and it's done. I don't do anything. That's such an awkward thing to highlight. Yeah. If you really wanted to highlight it, so just base coat those small things and just call it done. Like the pants for my army is a contrast wash, and then the briefest highlight with Rackhearth Flesh on like the upper areas, and then it's done. I'm not doing anything too ridiculous. I'm not like repainting the whole thing and leaving the recesses dark. Like I am. You need to do so much less work than you think you do.
Yeah. This is a callback to a season 1 of Trapped Under Plastic. Quit painting the boots, man.
Yeah.
Quit painting the boots.
Definitely.
Where are the boots on your model?
The metaphorical boots.
Metaphorical boots and physical boots. Like where are you wasting time unnecessarily? I got that with mine right now too, and I had all these plans of like colors for pouches and for holsters and for whatever. And honestly, I'm to the point where I've got a lot of things done except for those. And I'm just like, why do I need to paint those? Why do I need to paint those? If at the most, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a generic kind of mid-tone and I'm going to do a really quick like edge highlight over a couple of things. Just like,
yeah, exactly.
It shows that it exists.
Yes.
I don't want your eyes there anyway.
Right.
I actually went when I was like halfway through the gold on my army. So the gold trim on Chaos Dudes, it goes fully around an entire thing. Yeah. So it goes all the way around the thigh, up to the underside and whatever. It's a full circle and it's on every surface, whatever. I was about halfway through all the troop dudes. I'm like, why am I painting all of it? Why don't I just paint like the 75% that you can see, unless you're holding the model upside down like this. By the way, he's also on a base when you're doing that, so you probably can't see most of it anyway. It also helps because it allows you, as long as you have a black or really, a darker undercoat or base coat, that it creates more volume to your miniature, because where the light naturally wouldn't hit those things, it's just kind of ceasing to exist. So you're pushing up like this natural volume of light, or this is an excuse I tell myself to make me paint less parts of the model, to accomplish things that it's like, was there value in that? Was there actually anything? Is this hour doing this step on the next 10 models worth it, or would that hour be spent somewhere more valuable, doing more little edge highlights on the head and shoulders? Like that's gonna make your army look way cooler than getting all up in the fucking crotchal regions of all your Space Marines. Dude, they got little like bojangled trims that look like underwears.
So have you been doing that? Have you been like not painting?
Yeah.
1/4 the trim?
Yes. I did that after I did about 10 Chaos Marines.
How does that make you feel?
I can't see it.
Yeah. Okay.
So if I can't see it, what does it matter? And actually, when I went through and I've been doing future steps, I realized I've missed like whole wrist trims on guys and stuff like that. And honestly, because there's so much gold there, I will never know. I'm not going to go back out and get that gold and redo it.
This is like sacrilegious to me.
Yeah. You look at my army, you go ahead and try to find it.
Okay.
I mean, you'll find it, but it's going to take you 10 minutes.
It's like a Where's Waldo kind of
thing.
Find the unpainted wrist trim.
Yeah. And when you find it, you see that I did a little freehand of a middle finger right on that black wrist trim. You found it. Esmadi.
I don't know. It's definitely where I learned to paint. But yeah, like in a GW shop. I don't know if I could ever do that. Maybe I could. I mean, I kind of am doing that by not like painting this in the most inefficient way possible, like I would just naturally do. It doesn't matter. All right.
I mean, it's like there's nothing wrong with that paint.
There is nothing wrong with that.
Learn to paint approach. It's like learning a second language, and
I mean, it's kind of
learning vocabulary first. We're not worrying about sentence structure and possession of pronouns and all that kind of stuff that's unique to any individual language. We're trying to figure out the words first.
Yeah.
Once you figure out the words, then we can add more stuff on top of it. The problem is that when you think that learning all the words and then just taking those words and putting them in the order that my native language would put them in means that it's a correct sentence. And how this translates is it means that if I go by the way that Games Workshop has always taught me how to paint and then just continue to apply that to any situation makes it correct. It's not correct or incorrect necessarily, but that doesn't mean that that needs to be replicated all the time. Say, well, I know what, puedo ir al baño. Where's the bathroom? But if I know the words of where is the and bathroom in Spanish, I put them in that order that I know in English, and it's not a right Spanish sentence. So don't think when you learn the basics that means you need a one-to-one translation to just replicate that in all situations and it makes it correct. The basics are good to get you moving, and then be like, those are basics. Those aren't rules. Who says I have to paint every little square inch of this trim to make my army look cool? Nobody.
British people.
Yeah. Well,
they want that clean look.
Well, do they think it's clean when they're looking at it in Armies on Parade? So
I mean, maybe they do. I don't know. I don't know how down and dirty they get.
I'm pretty dirty.
Yeah. Did you just say I'm pretty dirty? No. Another point of efficiency is if your painting is broken up into days, think about where you want to end on a day that is most beneficial. So while you do not need a varnish in between painting with acrylics and doing an oil wash, what I will say is if one of your steps involves using an ink and 10 minutes after the ink dries, you put on an oil wash,
Ruh-roh.
and 5 minutes later, you start wiping it away with a sponge and mineral spirits, you will lose your yellow color. And it's not because of the white spirits, it's because of the abrasion from the sponge and the fact that ink is a little bitch right after you paint with it. Yeah. So a smart thing for me to do would be to end a day on finishing the yellow ink.
Yeah. I mean, even at a base level, if you're like, all right, I got 8 hours today. I'm going to start my army. I'm going to start racking it out on this Saturday.
Yeah.
Your army's all built. Okay. Boom. It's 8 a.m. in the morning. Prime everything black. Then I go through and do a strong zenithal with white ink. And then I start painting. Not a good idea.
Yeah, end on the zenithal ink.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And so the ink, it's the ink is the issue here.
Yes.
Not like I see it.
It is and it isn't. It's weaker, but like a normal acrylic paint would still also have that same problem.
Yeah, if you went over with if you did like with a rattle can and you waited an hour, you're probably fine.
Yeah.
But inks take longer to fully cure, and like you see this most often. I mean, you mentioned stuff like mineral spirits, but try zenithal priming with white ink or any ink, and then going through with contrast paint. Right,
and you hit it with any kind of
happens.
wash. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just destroys.
Turns
it.
into
It looks
a
like
milky
mud.
mess. Yeah.
It's mud. So yep, that's a really good point. It also allows you to check a box at the end of your painting session. That will give you momentum for the next painting session because you feel like you've accomplished something. I make this week, I've made a point of doing that every time. I'm ending my 2 hours. Sometimes I end up going 1 hour and 50 minutes. Sometimes I've gone 2 hours and 15 minutes. But I just made sure that I finished a step to finish my night. And then I feel accomplished, rejuvenated, ready to go for the next day because I don't have to, I got to keep going back to this stuff. Except for when I did the gold trim. That took me 2 full days to do gold trim. And you saw the message.
4 hours?
Yes, it took me 4 hours to do
for an entire army.
To do an entire army of the gold trim.
That's very impressive.
I told you I have a headache and I'm physically exhausted afterwards. Did you see the picture of the stupid Helldrake? All the gold on that thing?
Yeah. That's like a spider web.
Those things was. Speaking of not painting the parts you don't see.
Oh, you didn't paint the underside.
I didn't paint the underside.
You little
any of that,
cheater.
Any of that gold trim on that Helldrake. I had to make an executive decision.
You're like,
do I want to keep?
Am I doing this?
Am I going to finish this? And do I want to keep my sanity?
Yeah. Here's a question for you: if you would have painted all the gold trim, how many hours extra would it have been? 2 more hours? Another sesh?
Yes.
One
another
more?
2
Okay,
at least. Because so 4 hours of gold trim. Which, first of all, I mean, I'm pretty happy with myself that I got that done in 4 hours. Because after I was like 5 models in, I'm like, I'm fucked.
Yeah. Like this is over.
But it's really weird. The bigger your army is, the more you have samey in your army. you can build up speed if you allow yourself to do so. After a couple models in of each unit, I knew where everything was because I was paying close attention to its like wrist, shoulder trim, waist, thigh trim, other side, doop, boop, boop, backpack. Like I worked my way around in a circle knowing where each section was. And so I could just get quicker and quicker and I built up speed. Then when I started the Terminators, I slowed way down again to figure out where all the trim is so I didn't miss it. And then as I was going through unit, I sped up and I sped up and I sped up. It was at least another 2 hours. It was probably an hour. It took me to do the 3 vehicles, 2 Helldrakes, and then my kit bash thing, which was a whole nother frickin' issue because it was all gobbledygook and I didn't know where to look for shit. Those probably took 2 hours, just those 3 models.
Oh my gosh.
And an hour and 40 of that was the 2 Helldrakes. So it's probably another 2 hours just to finish the Helldrakes.
Okay.
But the way they're flying, and they're off on the flight stand, straight on, side, and above. You can't tell. If you pick the thing up and you go like this, you could say, yeah, it's not all painted.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Look at that. One decision you made saved 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And in a challenge where you're trying to paint it in evenings in a week, that's fucking money right there.
Yeah.
Money.
Right. And again, it's going back to my initial decision. What's going to make this look the best at 6 feet as a full army?
Yeah.
And that's not going to make it look the best.
Right.
That 2 hours instead, the next day, working on knocking out 4 different sections of individual colors on the entire army so I get a little bit more depth and it doesn't look half painted.
Yeah.
That's a better use of time.
Okay.
Ow! I just clamped my fingers with this thing.
Another piece of advice is just to watch the podcast episode about how to make your models pop.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of that in there is about expedient steps that you can take that make your models look more impressive with minimal time invested. Like obviously adding blood and mud and dry pigments and things like that. Like those things are really nice when painting armies.
In conjunction with that, I think there's 2 things that are related that you can do to give yourself a nice head start and build yourself some confidence. First of all, lean on any models you've painted before and go back and look at them and say, what part about this do I think I really like, or what part really makes this paint job work? Mm-hmm. And then go out and do some Google searching on well-painted armies for whatever game you play, or it could be other games, doesn't have to. And look at the whole army together and say, what makes this paint job so good? What about it is catching my eye? What about it makes me say, wow? And use that knowledge and to not necessarily copy it, but to take the general information of it's because they have so much interest in color and vibrancy up here on the head and shoulders. And because that bright orange and that nasty dark blue just contrast each other so well to really make them look interesting. Take that and then use that as your guiding principle, or use that as to help you make that initial decision. Because oftentimes we're looking at the one Jenga block, the decisions that we make on the micro don't translate super well to the macro. Mm-hmm. And that is, going back to painting all the pouches and all that stuff.
Fucking pouches, man.
Fucking pouches, bro.
Oh, so you have a time-saving thing you've done is not painting parts that aren't visible. A time-saving part that I've done, which is in a similar vein, is to literally snip parts off of models that are just egregious. Yeah. So the Incubi have so many fucking bedazzling jangle things, and I'm like, fuck this shit, and I just clipped it all off. I was like, this is so like the Klavex, which is the leader, has this strand of fucking gems hanging between his crotch. I'm like, nope. I'm like, I am not painting that. So I think in a fell swoop, I am making the models easier to paint, and in my opinion, they look better because there's just less shit all over them. So consider doing that. I know that is definitely a little bit sacrilegious, but I think really GW is getting to the point where like they are putting too much stuff on their models. They're already there. I think we're gonna see a point where they kind of bounce back from that a little bit, where they kind of like we're like, oh, okay, we've realized now that we can make the tiniest, highly detailed shit. And like we just want to use it everywhere. We want to use it everywhere. And it's like, oh wait, okay, maybe it's too much. So I think we're getting to the point where it's like, oh, okay, maybe this is too much.
Yeah, we've left the age of Sigmar and we've entered the age of Guild Ball.
Oh yeah,
It's
right.
just
With belts and
crap
knives and stuff. Yeah.
I'd say in a lot of ways, Games Workshop has surpassed Guild Ball and the details.
Oh, for sure. Because like Guild Ball is like all the same repeated detail, right?
yes,
But GW is just like,
yeah. Because
here's
what
a
they
grenade.
did is they Guild Ball did is they took a leg or they took an arm and they just took a little green stuff ribbon and they wrapped it and shit and put buckles on all of it.
yeah.
What Games Workshop also does, but they also then like we have the technology to have dangly crotch shit.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we're gonna put that everywhere. It's like this is an extra. It's a whole extra piece. It's not just the surface of the thing I'm painting having more details. It's extra details you've thrown on top of things.
Yeah.
That's it. I've got one more.
Okay.
Do you have?
I'm
any
done.
More?
I'm tapped.
Okay. This is good. This will be a good
I feel like it's some pretty solid
outro.
advice.
I think the one thing you need to keep in mind, and let this be your motivation through, because I promise you, if you've not accomplished this before, or if you have accomplished this before, remind yourself of this, of how cool it's going to be when it's all done. And I will tell you what, I've only painted one full army in my day. When I painted that and I looked at them all on the table and I was second guessing, or I wasn't sure, I didn't necessarily love, as I was going through it, how they turned out. And then I put them all on the table. And then I played my first game with them and I'm like, I feel so freaking good. Look at this whole army. It's all done. Look at them all together. I feel so accomplished. And it's hard to see the forest through the trees when you're in the midst of it. But I promise you, it will all be worth it. Even if you're like, oh, I'm not a great painter or whatever. I tell you what, when it's all there and it's all together, like it feels so freaking good. I've rarely, if ever, in my time painting miniatures, have felt happier about my painting work than when I finished an army.
That's so crazy to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it's at a different level. Like it's not just the amount of stuff, but that is part of it.
Yeah.
But it's just seeing this whole thing come together. When you're doing a single modeling for competition or whatever, like it's easier to see it coming together because you're always holding it. It's always doing the thing. But there's something like all these different parts are always working together side by side. And then when that army gets done, like it's just like you blink your eyes and then they're all done and it's all together and it's all one final thing. And it really is the tower of Jenga blocks and at the individual block that makes it cool. Whether it's an army for a war game, whether it's your entire D&D characters plus like the main villain and his henchmen, or whatever else that you're into the miniature hobby for, but could be painting a whole board game. Whatever it is, if you ever complete that big project, that's something that you're going to be really happy and feel very accomplished to do. So maybe that's part of the motivation for us having this be the topic today in the first place, because I want every goody peepee to have that feeling at least once in their life, to feel like this is a major project. This is a big thing and I can put it all together and it feels so good. So good.
So good. Excellent. Good advice. Claps all around.
We clap ourselves on the back.
I know. Clapped.
I feel like this is the most adult podcast episode. Like we've been good, upstanding citizens.
We made a lot of sexual jokes earlier.
Oh, well.
You mean like a mature? We're being mature right now?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, look at us. Like we're like, this is real advice.
Like, because normally we don't give real advice. That's what John's saying right now.
Right. I mean,
it's all speculation.
We're equally unqualified to give it as we are in any other day.
Right. Oh, I just want to reemphasize, this is not a normal way to paint an army. I don't think it is. If you don't want to paint an army like this and you want to kind of just float through it unit at a time, please do that. That sounds way more enjoyable, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was plenty of the things that we talked about today that will translate regardless. And I think that's one of the things we talked about earlier was like I said, really vocalize what it is you want to do and how you want to do it, and let that be your guide before you start, making any decisions. Because some of these are decisions you make along the way based on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still a strong proponent for setting yourself deadlines and timelines and that kind of stuff, even if you're like, I'm just here to cool my way through this and to just enjoy painting every single one and getting the most out of it. And if that makes you really happy and that fuels you to paint an hour every night, you don't need any restrictions because you have the motivation and, the self-control to do that. But that's not most of us. If we don't give ourselves some kind of time, like, there's a reason there's always deadlines at work. Mm-hmm. There's a reason that any part of your life, it's like, look, I have to have my taxes in by this day. I have to pay my garbage bill by this day. Like, it's set up that way because humans aren't reliable to do it on their own, given their own devices. It's just the way we are. So if you do it in a healthy way, that you aren't punishing yourself for not doing it, but just saying, I really am going to enjoy painting these Space Marines, but I'm going to have them done by the end of July. Cool. Then now you're going to hold yourself to that.
Very nice. Out of the news.
What? To the news. I didn't put down much for news.
I got one.
Okay. All right. Let's hear this. Let's see this.
This appeared on my Facebook feed. It's not like it didn't happen recently, but it's cool. I want to talk about it. There is a 1 to 250 scale model of ancient Rome that took 35 years to make and is on museum in Italy. And it was commissioned in 1933 in the early 90s. I
saw this.
Yeah, and it was finished later.
Did you say 1933, the early 90s? Hey, you did.
Is that a problem? What is it?
The early 90s?
Oh, 1900s. Sorry.
Yeah.
The early 90s. Oh my God. The model was continued to work on until 1971. But the guy who worked on it over the course of his entire life, and it is fucking insane. It is massive. Yeah. Like there's the thumbnail pic for the article.
How close was everything together? When I saw the picture, I'm like, Jesus, I just didn't picture everything was just like, I guess you don't have modes of mass transportation or whatever too. Like you got to squish it all together because people got to walk to go anywhere.
Yeah. So to put this in perspective, the scale of fantasy, the games we play, is 32 mil or 28 mil. Those are the two numbers people use often. And that in a ratio, it's like 1 to 32 or like 1 to 64. It's like one of those ones. It's not 1 to 250. So this is like 3 to 4 times smaller than our scale.
Yeah, I think like the Coliseum is the size of this Razor Wing jet fighter. Or what is this, Venom?
It's Venom. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That might be pretty accurate.
It's like a 3-inch circle.
Yes.
Is the Coliseum.
And it's just so cool. It's so cool. I love seeing. Holy fuck! There's a picture of the whole thing. It's so teeny weeny.
Yeah. There's a big wall there. Is that to keep away the Huns?
I don't know. It was used as basically to show what ancient Rome was what it looked like and how it was organized. It was like a little history lesson in a scale model. Just really cool. It's really cool to see elements of our hobby exist elsewhere. And that's kind of what it reminded me of.
Yeah. This is pretty freaking phenomenal.
Yeah.
I don't see like any, like they're like these big fancy villas that when I'm looking at like the housing of it, it's like these big fancy villas and like no regular housing anywhere. So it must be, that must be the Emperor's Palace.
It's all rich people, dude. It illustrates
like,
a point too.
In that time, a large portion of the population didn't live in the city, and they weren't inside the gated the walls. So they were fucked.
Mesopotamian showing up, you're all dead.
Yeah. Well, they burned all the farms and the farmers. We should rouse the Roman warriors.
We should tax the people more.
Yep, that too.
Help!
It
illustrates a point about that you were mentioning earlier about the scale of an entire project and like how detail oriented you need to be. I bet if you look at any one of these individual buildings,
Looks like doo-doo butter.
they probably look pretty bad, right? Like compared to our standards, miniature painters have like a really high standard for what a model should be painted by. Because even if I talk to a person who like is a terrain painter, and I talking about like painting the model, they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about? This is like what did you do to the model?" It's like I paint it with silver and hit it with a homemade black acrylic wash. It's like that's good enough.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but the reason that I can show you this thumbnail picture of this thing is because it's so fucking massive.
You're right.
Just like with an army.
Right.
It's so big, it doesn't need to be amazing down to the single model.
And when you look at it, like, where's the most time and focus spent on that giant thing?
I have no idea.
You look at the palace and you look at the Colosseum. They have the most detail. They have the most interest in like slight variations of color while still looking part of the whole thing. Like you understand where the eye is drawn to, and you focus more of your time there.
Fuck us.
Let us fuck us on. When you said that about the terrain painters, I just picture Luke from Luke's APS taking a bottle of apple barrel paint, just going like, and adding water to it, and it's just wash.
Yeah.
And when those guys that do that, and they're doing like rock faces and stuff, I'm like, God damn, that's like looks good.
Yeah, we're not trying to be like holier than thou at all.
No,
it's like
understanding of realism and what works to make something feel like it lives in a world that we can walk outside and see. Part of it is we overanalyze everything because we're dealing with things that aren't existing in the real world.
Yeah.
Like, I can't reference a dude that looks like one of these weird space elves to give myself some frame of reference. I have to go over the top because it's space dudes.
Space dudes!
Yeah, it sounds like a great like Saturday morning cartoon.
Space
name.
dudes?
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Coming this Saturday after Care Bears is Space Dudes!
That's our kids show.
Yeah. Pew, pew, pew. That's the sound of the lasers in Space Dudes.
Your other little news article is Warhammer Plus is doing painting videos. And I haven't read a single thing about Warhammer Plus, but Trent started talking to me about this from Miscast, and he was like, did you see that they're like they're making like YouTubers?
They're coming for us.
I know they are. Oh, not okay, maybe not intentionally, but on Warhammer Plus. So it's like okay, like he made the interesting thing is like he's like, what's the Miniac version of Warhammer Plus gonna look like? Like the person, or like, and just in general, the person who is making a painting video where maybe the video isn't solely about the painting, but also maybe a little bit entertaining. I don't know why he got that implication because I haven't watched or read anything about this.
They're not entertaining.
What?
I mean, I watched the announcement, and it's like, it's the Warhammer community videos.
Warhammer TV?
Yeah, the ones that, whatever, Warhammer, yeah, their YouTube page.
Yeah.
The one that Duncan did, now Peachy and crew do.
Peachy.
It's that, but it's trying to make them look better.
Oh, it's like a higher quality one?
Yes, it's all it is it's higher quality.
Is like the paint job better?
It's Orky Dork. She's the one that's doing it. Orky Dork on Instagram.
The fuck is Orky Dork?
She's a employee of Games Workshop, and she's a very good painter.
Does she paint like super saturated?
Yep.
Okay, I totally follow her on Instagram. Yeah.
Yep. And
wow.
So she's the one that's doing all of them for.
That's fucking cool. Okay, cool.
So she described it. So they had her on. I watched the announcement when I can't remember what I was doing. I was like shooting footage for something, whatever. So I had it on and I listened. And that perked my interest because I did not see a painting thing coming in Warhammer Plus. I guess my vision of what Warhammer Plus was just where they put all their like TV show shit.
Yeah, but saying that out loud is like not sustainable, right?
Right. Yeah, they had to have more content. A lot of it is like freaking shovelware, but that's just my opinion.
What does shovelware mean?
Shovelware is stuff that they spit on there that makes it feel like it's valuable, but it's just garbage.
Oh, it's like all the really shitty Disney Plus movies.
Yes.
Like Blank Check. You want to get fucked up? Watch Blank Check.
Oh man, isn't that Jonathan Taylor Thomas?
I have no idea who that is.
No, maybe it's not. I remember that movie from the 90s. It's freaking
that movie is so weird. Oh no. Honestly, that one isn't that bad. Watch Brink. That one is hilarious. There are so many. Okay, watch Dad Napped.
Dad Nap? That sounds like a fucking slasher movie.
No, dude. It's kidnapped, but with dads.
They kidnap the dads?
Yeah, the dads get kidnapped. That's why it's called Dad
Fucking
Napped.
pussy dads getting
I
kidnapped.
know. Like, even just telling you the title, you're like, what went wrong here? Like, who made these choices?
Did the kids? Okay, I gotta quit asking questions about Dad Napped.
If you want some time to waste, just go on Disney Plus and just pick the most ridiculous sounding like title and thumbnail to the movie.
That doesn't surprise me though, because if you ever watch the Disney Channel, it's 80% pure garbage.
Yeah, and so that's kind of like Warhammer Plus is doing. Like they're just filling it out.
Yes. Yeah, they fill out. The thing that makes it look like you get a bunch of stuff.
I feel
then
so-
you get
I feel
free,
so bad.
You get a free model if you subscribe for a year.
Oh yeah, that seems a little tricksy. I don't care. They can do whatever they want. It's their
Yeah,
business.
whatever. I mean,
There's so much.
Honestly,
There's
it's not
so many.
it's not a bad business move to get
Yeah.
a giant influx of people signed up front.
Yeah. Also, like there are so many GW models.
I know.
It is fucking endless, dude. So like, okay, I don't care if I miss one.
You're gonna run out. It's not like you couldn't get it for like $100 or whatever.
Like, yeah, if
on
you were
eBay.
if you really needed it, yeah, $100? No way, bro. Like
I
50.
don't know what they'll go for.
50.
You only get one for each person. You're giving them yours. Okay. Anyway, then someone sent me a message yesterday,
Did they?
and they're like, "I got my tinfoil hat theory," and I'm like, "Okay, let me hear it." They're like, "This is about Games Workshop seeing the success of Darren Latham's YouTube channel, making him stop it, and then redoing it and making you pay for it for an exact copy paste of what he was doing for free on YouTube."
Oh, so is Darren doing videos for this thing?
No.
Oh, okay.
As far
It's
as
a
I know, no. But
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good tinfoil hat theory. I would bet dollars to donuts what their actual videos look like will look very similar to what Darren did on his channel.
Okay. So all love to Darren, but his videos were not higher quality than Warhammer TV's because it was just him by himself.
No,
with his
but
cell
I think
phone.
and it's not I wasn't saying like the necessarily the quality. It was the
content.
process, the content itself.
Okay.
Because what he did,
the multi-parters,
yes,
the
is
deep
what-
dives.
and what he did was the way they described it themselves on Warhammer TV about what the painting version of that is. It was described. It sounded exactly like what Darren did,
Yeah. Okay.
which
Okay.
Darren's an amazing painter, and he took you through his process.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We loved it. It makes sense that they would do that. The tinfoil hat is like, did they make him stop it and then like wrote it in a notebook? It's like, hey, we're gonna, and they're like rubbing their fucking Zinchi hands together.
I would say it's not just that; it's all kinds of things.
Sure, I 100% agree, but I
Yeah.
think there's probably a sliver of truth in there.
Oh,
of,
for sure. Yeah.
"Oh, look at what happened.
It's like, look at the kind of talent we have here and the kind of success they can have by themselves. If we gave them cash and owned it, could we make money? Absolutely, we could. So yeah.
What do you mean make cash? They're already on the payroll. You think they're going to pay them more money to do this stuff?
No,
That's-
gave them cash, aka let them use our stuff, our
Right.
our video cameras, our crew. You know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting bit of news. Maybe this is a silly question to ask you, but are you going to sign up for Warhammer Plus?
Oh no. I might. Yeah, definitely not.
My thought was I had no intention. I had like zero intention of signing up for Warhammer Plus. And then with the parts that I didn't fall asleep through of that announcement, I have a twinge in me that wants to do it to actually just experience what their videos are like. Like I want to do it for a month or two, just to be like for my own research, R&D.
Yeah. So I have a hard time watching videos that are exclusively education miniature painting videos. I have been a patron of Christoph. I think his name is Kovalchuk. I know it's Christoph. For
is he in Frozen?
Frozen? Oh, okay.
Disney movie?
Are you making a?
It's on
joke right
Disney
now?
Plus.
Is it?
Yeah.
Are you tooting right now?
A couple times.
You little tutor?
Toots Magoots.
I've been his patron for, I don't know, 8 months. I haven't watched a single fucking video. So I just feel like that kind of stuff is just like I can't find time to watch it. So I don't know. But yeah, I think it's a good idea to watch it just to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
Also, I want to watch fucking if they do more Space Marine animated shorts, I'd watch that. I like that a lot.
Well, that's I mean, cause that's what they led with. That was like the hype leading up to this. Was this
Yeah.
what's going to be? And then I mean, I don't have all the details in front of me, but I remember being very shocked at how little of that is actually coming out.
Okay, I'll pay.
There's going to be like, I'm wrong in this.
We'll share a login. How about that? We'll pay for it.
Yeah. Okay. There's like four. There's like going to be like 4 episodes a year.
Oh, okay. So
And they ask how long they are,
year.
and they're like roughly 15 to 18 minutes.
That's kind of long. Okay. I'm thinking about this as if it's still one guy doing it.
Sure.
It is no longer one guy doing it?
I'm just through their own studio now.
Okay.
I guess.
Maybe he's like an art director and like
Right.
he has a bunch of cronies doing animations for him.
Yeah,
now.
this is all speculation. I don't know. And I don't care enough to look more. But
Yeah.
I was shocked how little of Warhammer Plus like marketed as a streaming service there was of actual. It was just kind of like, oh, we're going to have some stuff on Battle Report. Not even Battle Reports. They're going to have stuff on like that. Actually, might be kind of cool.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they could do all kinds of stuff.
Like Battle Reports on their models that they're painted for boxes and they're like actually well produced and everything. Fuck yeah, I didn't see that. I hope I'm wrong, but I didn't
That'd
see
be
that.
super cool. Yeah,
But like, there's gonna be a ton of lore talk. Dude talking lore. Like that was one of their big things. Of like, oh, well, some people like that. That's great. But,
yeah.
you couldn't. That would be like Chinese water torture for me. Like just fucking waterboard me already. Turn this shit off. And like talking through strategies and stuff, like the articles that they have on the Warhammer community now about like once a month on strategy stuff.
That's gonna be interesting. It's like seeing how they differentiate their free content and their paid for content.
Yeah, where are they gonna? Are they just gonna use this as a funnel system, whatever? So at first I had this twinge of they're coming for us, and then I heard other whispers of people like they're coming for us, and then I kind of sat and thought about like. I mean, they're not coming for us, but like when you talk about potential audience, potential people becoming patrons, people really associating with your hobby and stuff, and I'm like, we're not doing that.
It's not comparable. Yeah.
No, it's not the same thing.
It's a free platform versus a paid platform. It's a totally different animal.
Yeah,
it's a totally different audience.
Well, but also what the content is. Like the people that have a Patreon that they do PDFs and they do a dry watch me paint it uncut or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think it's closer to coming at their doors.
Yeah, for sure.
Than it is the people that are like, look, I want to teach you some things. I want this to have some informational and educational aspect to it, but I want you to have fun, and I want us to like go on a journey. I want to tell an interesting story. Like that's a different animal.
Yeah.
So
I mean, also like just the world of free content and like kind of getting people into your sales funnel and all that stuff. It was like a totally different way of doing business than like having a reputation and then selling something based on that reputation, which is what GW is doing here. It's like as a YouTuber, you almost need to gain the trust of the audience member before they spend money on you, and you do that through them watching multiple of your videos. Then they're like, okay, I'll subscribe. Then a month later, like, okay, I'll buy a shirt. And then like a month later, like, okay, I'll become a patron. You know, it's like it's this increasing in trust. Whereas at GW, it's like they have a long lasting line of customers that already trust them.
That's a really
Let's
good point.
make money.
That's a really good point.
Oh my gosh.
Hope the mics didn't pick that up.
The mics are pretty good at rejecting sound, so I doubt you heard that. But John just shat his pants.
Oh, made my heart hurt.
Oh my gosh.
There's like a bubble in my bloodstream that made its way to my heart from that fart. Yeah, that cuts like a knife too. Like I made a problem of looking at my analytics on my YouTube channel lately. It was like 65% of my views on my YouTube channel come from non-subscribers.
I know.
I'm like, ouch!
You'd be surprised at how normal that is.
That hurts my heart a little bit.
You'll see YouTubers be like, they'll show that analytic and be like, I see that none of you are subscribed. What the fuck? And then like they'll ask for a subscriber as kind of a funny joke at that point. I think that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
Especially when you're punching above your weight in terms of views. If you get more views in general than a normal channel with your subs might have, and that all kind of depends on what normal means. But oftentimes it is from mostly non-subscribers.
Yeah. It's a battle. It's a battle.
All right, welcome to the end of the podcast.
I almost made it to the end of the podcast before I had to pee, but then I was going to pee my pants, so I went pee before we guys got here.
Did you poop when you got here?
I didn't.
What happens? What happens? What happened?
I didn't eat 10 bananas before I came over.
Oh, that was the thing you did?
Yeah, that's a callback to the last episode. We had the banana eating story.
Oh, okay.
I didn't do that.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah. My poop schedule's off. Apparently, I don't know.
It's the coffee, dude.
Yeah, it is. Usually that gets things moving in the morning, but
Yeah, when you eat one meal a day,
right? That's a good thing.
like a crazy person. All right.
Now we're really at the end of the podcast for reals this time.
If you enjoy the podcast and want to support it, there are a number of ways that you can do it. We have a Patreon campaign where you get access to an extended episode of the podcast where we talk about things like our favorite miniatures from other painters in the last 2 weeks. And it's not always paint jobs. This week mine was a conversion, and John's had conversions in the past too. We also talk about things that we've experimented with and failed or succeeded at. We also give feedback to one of our community members. So as a $5 patron, you can also supply models for us to give feedback to and pick one an episode. And you can also give us topics to discuss all the time. We look at that list and reference it for ideas and then credit the person when we get a topic from them.
We check that every episode.
Every episode, yeah.
We had a couple good ones that we're probably going to use in the near future too.
Yeah.
So thank you for all of you that submit those. It really does help us. Even if we don't use it, sometimes we talk through them and it starts a conversation where we get to something else, which is great too.
Absolutely. And other free ways to support the podcast are to just tell your nerd friends about our podcast. Share it around on Facebook. Tell your friends in the schoolyard when you're out in recess, because you're all like 8, right? No, yeah. Tell your nerd friends. Give us reviews on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, wherever you're listening to the podcast. Watch the video on YouTube without an ad blocker. Is a great way to support the channel. And lastly, you can buy our merch, which none of us are wearing right now, but we have a sick hoodie and a sweater and a t-shirt. 2 different designs, both really awesome artists who made those designs.
We need to do it. We need to do a hat sometime too.
Oh yeah, like a toque or like a snapback or
Both.
A dad hat.
Both. What's a dad hat?
A dad hat is, so you know how a snapback has like a really kind of like deep bucket?
Yeah.
A dad hat has a very shallow one, and the bill is bent.
Okay.
And it has a strap in the back. It's no snaps. It's like more of a strap that you kind of like pull and tighten. No, not Velcro.
Oh, with the loop?
With a little buckle.
Oh, that's like Smalls from The Sandlot. Okay.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, that's a dad hat. It was kind of in for a bit. I think it's kind of on the way out.
Okay.
I'm a fashion icon.
Let's bring it back.
I'm a fashion icon, so I know these things.
Yeah, you are. When I see you,
I mean, look at this fucking shirt. For all the audio listeners, I'm wearing the 3 Wolf 1 Moon shirt, and if you don't know that by name, you're not worth my time.
Oof. Yeah, when I think of you, my brain immediately goes to David from Schitt's Creek. You are both fashionistas.
I'm not sure if that's a compliment or a good thing. I'll take it though.
Yeah, just take it.
Just take it. All right. We'll catch you on the
Flippity.